Lucia Herrera sat on the cold metal bench at the tram stop, her feet bare against the frozen pavement, and tried not to cry. 14 hours. 14 hours of blood, screaming, broken bones, and one little girl who didn't make it despite everything Lucia had done. Her paramedic boots lay in a trash bin 3 blocks back, soaked through with sewage water from a flooded basement, where she'd pulled an elderly man from his wheelchair. The supervisor had sent her home early, told her to rest, but now the last tram had left 10 minutes ago, and her phone was dead, and she couldn't even feel her toes anymore. January in Barcelona wasn't supposed to be this cold. She pulled her thin uniform jacket tighter, knowing it wouldn't help. The street was empty except for the distant sound of traffic and the golden glow of a BMW slowing down near the curb. Lucia looked up, exhausted and weary. The window rolled down. A man leaned over from the driver's seat. Dark hair, sharp features, expensive watch. He looked concerned, not predatory, but she'd learned not to trust concern from strangers in expensive cars. "Are you hurt?" he asked. His voice was calm, direct. "No, just waiting." She didn't elaborate. "For what?" The tram stopped running. He glanced at her feet, then her uniform. "You're a paramedic." "Observant." She meant it to sound tough, but it came out tired. He opened his car door and stepped out. Before she could protest, he shrugged off his wool coat and held it out to her. "Take this. Please. You're freezing." "I don't need." "You're barefoot in January. You need it more than I do." He draped it over her shoulders anyway, and the warmth was so immediate and overwhelming that she pulled it tight without thinking. It smelled like clean laundry and something woody. "Where do you live?" She told him, too exhausted to lie. He nodded and gestured to the car. "Come on. I'll drive you." Lucia hesitated. Every instinct told her not to get in a car with a stranger, but her feet were numb, her body was shaking, and something in his eyes looked genuinely worried, not calculating. She stood up slowly, wincing as her bare feet touched the icy sidewalk, and got into the passenger seat. They drove in silence for a few minutes. He didn't ask questions, didn't try to fill the quiet with small talk. Lucia studied him out of the corner of her eye. Mid-30s, maybe, tired, like he hadn't slept in days. His hands gripped the wheel with precision, like someone who controlled everything in his life except maybe this moment. "Bad night?" he finally asked. "The worst." Her voice cracked a little. "Lost a patient. 7 years old. Hit by a car." He didn't say he was sorry. Didn't tell her it wasn't her fault. He just nodded, like he understood that some things couldn't be fixed with words. That made her trust him a little more. "What's your name?" she asked. "Adrian." "Velasco." She blinked. Even in her exhausted fog, she recognized the name. Adrian Velasco, the billionaire inventor who'd sold some kind of revolutionary energy tech when he was 25 and then disappeared from public life. Rumors said he funded research labs and refused every interview. She'd seen his face once in a magazine someone left in the ambulance. "You're that Adrian Velasco," she said quietly. "I'm just Adrian right now." He glanced at her. "And you are—" "Lucia Herrera, just a paramedic." "Just—" He almost smiled. "You save lives. That's not just anything." They reached her building, a modest apartment complex in Gracia. Adrian parked and turned off the engine. Lucia started to take off the coat, but he shook his head. "Keep it. I have others." "I can't." "You can." His eyes met hers, serious and kind. "Please, get some rest." She nodded, too tired to argue. As she stepped out of the car, he called after her. "Lucia, you did everything you could tonight. Remember that." She didn't trust herself to speak, so she just closed the door and walked inside, wrapped in his coat, carrying the weight of the day and the strange, unexpected warmth of a stranger's kindness. Adrian came back 3 days later. Lucia was leaving for her shift when she saw the BMW parked outside her building. He was leaning against it, holding a box. "Your coat's upstairs," she said, more surprised than annoyed. "I was going to get it cleaned." "I didn't come for the coat." He held out the box. "I came to bring you these." Inside were paramedic boots. Good ones. Expensive, waterproof. The kind she'd never be able to afford. She stared at him. Why? Because you needed them. And because I want to see if you were okay. You don't even know me. I know you walked barefoot in January because you saved someone's life. That's enough. Lucia didn't know what to say. Men didn't do this, not in her experience. They didn't show up with exactly what you needed and ask for nothing. She took the box carefully, like it might disappear. Thank you, she managed. Really, but you didn't have to. I know. He smiled, and it transformed his serious face into something almost boyish. Can I buy you coffee sometime? When you're not working? She should have said no. She should have thanked him and walked away. But something in his quiet persistence, his lack of pretense, made her say yes instead. They met at a small cafe near the hospital the following week. Then again. Adrian kept coming back, fitting himself into the strange, chaotic rhythm of her shifts. He'd wait outside the hospital at 2 a.m. with hot chocolate. He'd listen when she needed to talk about the calls that haunted her, the ones she couldn't shake. He never tried to fix her or her problems. He just stayed. Lucia learned that he was brilliant and lonely, that he built his fortune on innovations he never took credit for, that he spent his days working on technologies to improve emergency response systems and his nights alone in a mansion he barely lived in. He asked her about her work with genuine fascination, like saving lives was the most important thing anyone could do. For the first time in years, Lucia felt seen, not as a uniform, not as someone who cleaned up the city's messes, but as herself, whole and valued and enough. But doubt crept in when Adrian invited her to a gala fundraiser for one of his research initiatives. She wore a borrowed dress and felt like an imposter among women in diamonds and men who spoke casually about millions. When Adrian introduced her to his colleagues, she saw the flicker of confusion in their eyes, the way they assessed her and found her lacking. One woman, draped in silk, smiled tightly and asked what Lucia did, and when Lucia said she was a paramedic, the woman's interest evaporated instantly. Lucia excused herself, found a quiet balcony, and decided she didn't belong in Adrian's world. She couldn't be the woman in the borrowed dress, pretending she fit into marble halls and champagne glasses. She left without saying goodbye. Adrian showed up at her door the next morning, hurt and confused. Lucia told him the truth, that she couldn't be part of his life. Not really, not when their worlds were so different. That she'd rather end it now than watch him realize she wasn't enough later. He listened without interrupting. Then he said, "You're wrong. I'm not. You are." His voice was steady. "You think I care about any of that? I've spent 10 years in rooms full of people who matter to no one. You matter, Lucia. You save lives. You're brave and real, and you make me feel like I could be something more than just money and inventions." Adrian, let me prove it. He did. Over the next month, a new emergency response initiative launched in Lucia's district. State-of-the-art equipment, better ambulances, funding for additional staff. It was anonymous, but Lucia knew. She confronted him, and he didn't deny it. "I didn't do it to win you back," he said quietly. "I did it because your work matters, because you matter. And if you never speak to me again, at least you'll have what you need to keep saving people." Lucia cried for the first time since the night they met, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming realization that someone saw her, truly saw her, and loved what he found. They married 6 months later, on a quiet beach outside the city. Paramedics in uniform stood beside scientists in suits. It was small and real and perfect. And when Lucia told Adrian she was pregnant, watching his face transform with wonder and joy, she knew that the barefoot night she thought was her lowest moment had actually been the beginning of everything. Their daughter, Marina, was born on a warm September evening, healthy and loud and impossibly loved. Adrian held her with the same careful precision he used for everything important, and Lucia watched him whisper promises to their tiny daughter about the world they'd build for her together. Sometimes, late at night, when Marina slept between them and the city hummed outside their window, Lucia thought about the cold bench, the bare feet, the stranger who stopped when he didn't have to, how one moment of kindness had changed everything. how love had found her when she least expected it. Wrapped in a wool coat on the worst night of her life. And she was grateful for all of it, every moment.